Hey everybody, Yankee here. I want to come on here today and let everyone know how the state of Washington is denying legal gun owners the right to purchase firearms and receive them in any type of timely manner. And I'm not talking about the exorbitant 10-day waiting period that people in the state of Washington already face. I'm talking about the state using their own incompetence to justify denying people indefinitely the right to purchase firearms. Legal, law-abiding citizens who can actually go out and purchase a gun, they're using the fact that they've set up this complicated system that they can't run as an excuse to deny you and me our Second Amendment rights. Now, in the state of Washington right now, they have decided that, the federal system wasn't good enough for checking for background checks. So they said, well, we're going to do it on a state level. We're going to have the state police do it, which they're basically just using the federal system, but now they actually have to have someone at the state police department do it. So they've added that little wrinkle. And now, because they're saying that they can't properly fund or staff the state police to be able to do it, well, your rights are just suspended indefinitely. For example, I purchased a firearm 2 weeks ago. Went in, bought the new a Beretta, the new Tomcat, and, would have to wait a 10-day waiting period, which would mean it would take me 10 days to pick it up. And that's not 10 days from the day I purchase it. That's 10 days from when my background check comes back. And that usually takes 24 to 72 hours. So you would have that time plus 10 business days. So you're often waiting 2.5 weeks just to pick up your gun. Well, now I'm 2 weeks into it. They still haven't returned my background check yet. And when you ask them why, they're like, well, we've got this new system that we have to run and we can't properly fund it or staff it. We just don't have the money because of our own incompetence. The Bloomberg liberals up in Olympia, because of our own incompetence, we've got a huge budget shortfall. So we can't fund every program. So that's one of the ones we're not getting funded properly. But because they're not funding it, you're being denied your Second Amendment rights. So they're doing that kind of thing intentionally. So all you people out there who think things like, oh, well, background checks and all these other things, they don't really deny you your right if you're a legal citizen and you can actually buy a gun. Yes, they do. Because they create these systems that have to be jumped through. You have to jump through all these hoops to get through it. And then they just don't put the hoops up. And they're like, well, sorry, you didn't jump through the hoop. Well, the hoop's not there. Well, we don't have the funding for the hoops. So therefore, you can't have your rights. And that's what's going on exactly in the state of Washington right now. And that's what can happen in any state where you allow things like these intricate background check systems, etc., to be implemented. And like I said, they're using their own incompetence in the state of Washington to justify denying you your rights. Even if my background check came back tomorrow, I'd still have to wait another 2 weeks. That would be over a month before I was able to pick up a legally purchased firearm. And thank God they're doing that because, I couldn't do anything with any other firearm. I think it's ridiculous that if someone has a carry permit, they have a waiting period. I think waiting periods are ridiculous, but they're especially ridiculous if you already have a carry permit because that probably means you already got a gun. So they're just stupid. And like I said, the reason they craft these little systems that don't take away any of your rights as long as you jump through the hoops, the reason they craft these systems is so later when they don't want you buying firearms, they just take down the hoops. And they're like, well, we're not denying you your right to buy a firearm. We just can't get the hoops put up so that you can jump through them to get your firearm. And that's what's happening right now. And it's not just happening to me. It's happening to lots of people in the state of Washington. The gun shop I go to said they have a stack of people that they just can't get the background checks back from. And the state police just keep saying, well, we're understaffed and underfunded. So, it might never happen. Or it's going to take a very long time. So since when is it okay for a state to deny someone their rights for a very long time with no recourse? It's one thing when they say, hey, it's on you. You didn't jump through the hoops. It's another thing when they don't give you the hoops to jump through, that they made it necessary for you to jump through. So that's what's going on right now in the state of Washington, and that's what can happen in any state. That's why I tell people, don't support things like background checks. Don't support things like waiting periods. They try to make them sound like, well, it's for everybody's, safety, and it's just common sense. It's not common sense. It's a rigmarole that they put forward that you have to go through to exercise your rights, and then they can just stop that rigmarole from happening. Just slow down the wheels. Make sure no one can get anything. And that actually hurts a lot of gun shops, because now they got all this inventory sitting there that they can't get rid of. They can't give it to the people who bought it. They can't make room for new stuff. This is all a deliberate attack on the gun community, the retail side of the gun community. They're trying to drive FFLs out of business. That's Bloomberg's big plan right now. Doesn't matter if we take away your rights, if we just take away your ability to exercise your rights. If there's no gun shops around, no place sells firearms, well, even if you have the right to have them, you can't get them. That's their goal. And this is just another example of that right now, how they're using their own system, their own intricate scheme that they've created to now say, well, because we can't get the scheme up and working, you can't buy guns, even though the scheme never needed to exist. That's their game plan. And if you can't see that, you must be blind, because that's what they're doing. So don't let this kind of thing happen in your state. Don't let this kind of thing happen to you. Fight these things. Fight, fight, fight. And I don't mean like, oh, I joined the GOA, so I'm fighting. You're not fighting. You're perpetuating the problem joining things like the NRA, the GOA, because they make money off the problem. They want these things to happen so that they can fundraise off of them. Find out where these fights are being fought on a state level by individuals who have an attorney who are suing the state, and then help fund those fights. Find local organizations that fund those fights. Like here in the state of Washington, we have Dan at Sporting Systems. He formed his own little committee, and he fights these things tooth and nail. So find who's fighting on the ground level and help them out. Don't perpetuate the problem. And be aware that even these things that seem innocuous, that seem like, oh, it's a little bit of red tape, but if you're a legal citizen, you won't have to worry. Yes, you do. Because like I said, all they got to do is stick a rod in the wheels of their little scheme, and your rights are pretty much gone.